It's a mantra album. Sage loves this one. Ramadasa sa se soha.
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 Sun and the moon and the earth and the breath. I am that. Sun and the moon and the earth and the breath. I am that. Sun and the moon and the earth and the breath. I am that. Sun and the moon and the earth and the breath. I am that. Ramadasa sa se soha.
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 Sun and the moon and the earth and the breath. I am that. Sun and the moon and the earth and the breath. I am that. Sun and the moon and the earth and the breath. I am that. Sun and the moon. And then here is rather polar opposite. Sage and I have been wanting to do an album together for about 10 years. And we finally, with the invention of digital remote recording, we can be in different parts of the world and record an album together. The mantra is that she and I are chanting is Om, which is infinite nothing, Ong, which is the beginning of the tension, pressure, stress, and friction that creates the universal something. Ram, which is that creativity that brings it together into formation. Ham is the formation, the you, the me, the world, the stars, etc. And then Nama, which is Namaste, which is the gratitude, the I bow to it. And it's recorded in a binaural pulse, so when you use it with the earbuds or headphones, you get both hemispheres of the brain operating synchronistically. Beautiful. Finally, dreams come true, right?
Yes.
From dream to reality. So why don't you begin us, Gary, and I'll take it from there.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to all my Plat brothers and sisters. Today's session is called Awakening Self-Mastery. And if it's okay, I'm gonna share a quick story on why this topic is important to me, and I feel so compelled to share it with you. And if it's not okay with you, then too bad. You're gonna have to listen to it anyway.
Let's put it this way, Gary. You know it's okay with me.
Yes. So I met Guru Singh back in 2012, and it was the spiritual trip, or nowadays it's called a happiness trip. Back then, I really wanted in that year that I joined Plat to have a relationship trip, but it wasn't until the next year. So, I have the spiritual trip. Okay, I'm up for anything. And back then, the person I am, I had a successful company. It was one of the fastest growing companies in Australia. It was doing very well. It was all about, even though it's about marketing, but it was the vision is about spreading happiness, success, and fun. So I was like happy internally, I was happy externally, but I wasn't seeking, I wasn't meditating. If you recall Date with Destiny, how Tony explained the level of consciousness, I was heavy orange my whole life, achieving, and there was no yearning for anything more. The only yearning is like, maybe how could I achieve to a higher level? Who can relate to that, right? It's and I met Guru Singh, and we went to this different parts of India to experience magical things. And when we were called to like meditate or even receiving the blessing, and at the end of it, like my friends, my Plat brothers and sisters were saying, "Hey, that was amazing, wasn't it, Gary?" And it's like, well, like I fell asleep. Like is that what I'm meant to be feeling? Like what am I supposed to be feeling? Like I don't meditate. But then time and time into this, like the more that I spend time, the more I got into it, the more I started to understand it, the more I started to feel. I remember there was a time that Tony talks about that some of you guys hearing different people sharing about their like sensing this and connection with that, or feel or seeing their past loved ones and all these crazy images. Some people even say that they saw Tony like turning into Jesus, and then but some of you guys are not seeing anything. He says, "Don't worry, your time will come." And but I continue on my path on this journey. Yes, at that event I felt something, but what is more important, at that event I got to meet Guru Singh. Out of all the different speakers, I really pretty much connected with him the most. The reason why is it's like, yes, he sang, he led yoga sessions, he taught, and this is him on stage, singing and doing all this beautiful thing. But when you get to spend time with him through the streets of India, like he is like one of your best friend. He's so down to earth. He's so funny. He dressed like this spiritual guru, but he acts like your best friend. So throughout the next few years, I got to know him. I got to spend time having dinner with him. Got to visit his home multiple times, and just had a lot of fun. And but that was just it. Like I just see him as spiritual guru. Until a few years further into my journey, I started going through this spiritual path that I was never designed to go through. If you ask my entrepreneur achiever self, like I wouldn't be, it wasn't part of my plan. But sometimes life happens for you, as Tony talks about, and it got me to this place that I didn't know what was happening in my life. And the only person that really came to mind that would know is Guru Singh. Um, and so I was called to start this podcast about awakening, about self-discovery. And I started realizing one thing is that all the time that we learned in personal development, a lot of really useful skill sets. But the time that if I'm getting triggered by my kids, I'm reacting, and my conscious mind is not even aware of pulling out the bags of tricks that I've got. Um, and through this work of awakening, self-mastery, of awakening raising your own consciousness, you start to see beyond the thoughts of the mind patterns. And and of all the teachers and all the gurus I've learned from, Guru Singh has been one of the biggest inspiration for me. If you get a chance to get his book from Amazon, or listen to it, the journey he's been on, it's like it's out of this world. It's like it gives you appreciation. It's not this person that just hey, study from books and or listen to a few teachers. His insight, his wisdom is like it's directly channeled from universal intelligence, if that's the right terminology. But without taking any more time, I'm really excited to learn from Guru Singh and share it together with all of you. So thank you, Guru Singh, for being here today.
Beautiful. You know, I always say when somebody introduces you, your whole goal is to live up to the introduction, right? Because it's always so beautifully stated. Thank you, Gary. Gary and I have enjoyed each other all this dozen years. And we may have met, those of you who have been on some of the spiritual or happiness trips over the last few years. Tony and I met in 1993. And so we've known each other for 31 years. And we really, I really started to work with him in 2006. And one of the things that in his biography, we were making a video biography, one of the things that I noted about Tony is that he has no cracks. In other words, there's no separation between his private persona and his public persona. And this is a goal that the depth of our being longs to achieve, is that when we are exuding to the maximum of our being, we are having the same persona, whether we're getting a parking ticket or whether we're teaching a mastery class. And so I would like to unfold this in a very science-oriented way so that we can see the practicality in the universality. I'm a scientist, and Kundalini is a science. Life is a science and an art, as Tony often says. The science side of life is that over the last 125,000 years, we have been focusing on developing the brain in our head. Prior to that, we were mainly guided by the brain in our stomach. in today's world, medical doctors understand there's a gut brain, there's a heart brain, and there's a head brain. But the head brain has been maximized over the last 125,000 years. What we've lost in the gut brain is the ability to truly know what is food and what is filler, and to truly know how to connect not only with the nutrition of the food in our space, but of the relationships in our space. And because we no longer work with the gut brain en masse as a humanity, our relationships are coming from the head brain, which is very analytical. So our relationships are very much analyzed before they're experienced. And what that does is that places an imprint on our relationships. Even our relationship to self is analyzed before it's experienced. And so today we're going to do some things that allow for all three brains to be in an equal state. First of all, we want to connect from the gut. And the way that's most easily done is it just to take your left hand and place it on the navel point and just sit, whether you're in a group of people or with just by yourself in meditation or contemplation, and you just sit with this emphasis right here on the gut, and all of a sudden you're going to begin to experience aspects of others and aspects of yourself that are revelatory, things that you didn't really think about, but now you're feeling. And the same thing holds true for the heart brain. And the neurology in the heart is very much a neurology about effort to give, relaxation to receive. The effort to give is the heart pumping the blood into the body. The relaxation to receive is the heart completely relaxing and allowing the blood to come back in from the body. Same thing holds true for the lungs, which are a part of the heart brain. You exhale with force, the lungs are naturally filled. The alveoli sacs, those microscopic sacs inside the lungs, are very buoyant, and they naturally fill up. And that's one of the reasons why in Kundalini yoga and meditation there's so much emphasis placed on breathing and breath work. And then after these two brains are engaged, you can engage the head brain, which will then analyze the circumstance that you've already connected with. You're already giving and receiving to and from, and now the analysis is not as critical, but is more adventurous. In quantum physics, the idea of the universe is that it is infinite, going inward into the very small, from the molecule to the atom to the subatomic, etc., down the many layers of existence, and it's infinite going outward. And that means to the stars, to the galaxies, to the universe, says, to the megaverse, to the omniverse, and beyond, because infinity is an absolute has to be. Because if things weren't infinite, they would have an end. But what's on the other side of the end? And that's how the human brain is able to contemplate infinity, is that it just thinks of a very large space and then thinks beyond that and then thinks beyond that, because our sensory system and the way in which we form attitude is compartmentalized. So let me show you here. This is a graphic depiction of the human body. You've got the legs, you've got the pelvis, you've got the gut, you've got the diaphragm, you've got the heart center, you've got the cervical vertebra, you've got the reticular formation, and you've got the head. These are actually extremely key components of our physical body. The left leg is about intention. The right leg is about motivation. The pelvis is about concept or purpose, two words that mean the same thing. It's within that pelvic bowl that our body is conceived, within the pelvic bowl of the mother. Now, intention and motivation. One of the reasons why they say that the road to hell is paved with good intention is because if we don't authorize ourselves to fully embrace our intention, we will not have sufficient motivation to manifest it. So the balance between intention and motivation is extremely important. And once intention and motivation become balanced, then purpose becomes a solid component of that trilogy. This is done through the standing exercises in Qigong, in Tai Chi, and in Kundalini Yoga. And so when we'll do this in a few moments, these standing exercises, I want you to understand that most people have a preference as to which leg they stand the most on. We don't always stand equally on both, but we're going to very intentionally stand equally on both of our legs and really feel the power in our stance. Then above that is what is called that emotion of notions or ideas. And this gut brain is filled with our emotional charge. And the emotional charge, all of which have purpose and have value. But if we're not working with the emotional charge, then the emotional charge is working with us. And that's when emotions can be triggered that we don't intentionally mean. And what then happens is that our life is disrupted because the emotions and the feelings are then translated up into the heart and into the head, and it controls the frequency of our head brain, which controls the quality of our thinking. The natural state of infinity, everything is everywhere, always. Write that down. The natural state of infinity is that everything is everywhere, always. And for that very reason, the natural state of life is ease on the physical level, dis-ease when it's disrupted, joy on the emotional level, and all of the other emotions when that's distorted in any way. And it's said that love is the joy of enjoying another's joy. On the mental level, the natural state, the base state, is knowing. It's like we are a laptop, and when a laptop's not connected to Wi-Fi, it only knows what it has on its hard drive. But when you connect a laptop to Wi-Fi, that laptop can serve you all of the knowledge in the world. As a human being, we are like that laptop. And our Wi-Fi is our attitude and our belief system. When we connect our attitude and our belief system to our mental base state of knowing, we begin to intuitively come up with solutions all over the place because we are accessing the universal Google, so to speak, right? So you have ease, joy, knowing, and the fourth state, which is the state of spirit, is enlightenment. So my point here is that enlightenment is not something to strive for. It's something to uncover. That we are all at ease. We are all in joy. We are all fully knowing. And we are all enlightened. It's like this. A bell that is tarnished is still shining. A metal bell that is tarnished only needs to be rubbed in order for that shine to come out. This is the mythology behind the genie in the bottle, right? That old mythology that if you rub the lamp, right, that metal lamp, the genie appears. That genie is actually you in your enlightened state as you polish your own lamp. And that's what we're going to be getting to here. And so as this comes up through your breathing, comes up through the heart, comes up through here, all of a sudden, all three of your brains begin to operate simultaneously. And when that happens, more science for you, but it's practical. When that happens, you move from these erratic states of gamma, which is combat and competition, super beta, which is that excited state, beta, which is that active state. You come down into the brain activity of alpha, which is the very relaxed state. And then if you can, like Gary was saying earlier, he fell asleep. The key to deep meditation is that you go into the theta state, which is actually dream time, while remaining conscious. It's lucid dreaming. And in that cognitive dreaming, you're able to experience all of this information. Here you see that the on-off position of the brain is very rapid and very erratic. But here the brain waves are opening up. And in that openness, the brain, all three brains, begin to discover answers to your questions, solutions to your problems. And you suddenly realize that if I remain in my opened presence, I can actually envision my preference without having to navigate the difference. Let me graphically explain that. Your presence is that meditative, active, lucid dreaming state. Just don't do it while you're driving a car, right? You don't want to be in the dream state while you're operating your vehicle. But at any other time, even when you're communicating with friends, you want to be fully present. You want to be in that state of that theta state, or that at least in that alpha state of relaxation, so that your brain can open up. The parasympathetic nervous system, which is the take a step back, look at the bigger picture, can really start to respond rather than react. In presence, all of a sudden, we experience our preference and we experience its trajectory. It's like you're seeing an airplane coming in for a landing. You're seeing that which you desire coming in for a landing, beyond the space that you're in, beyond the time that you're in. You actually see it, not necessarily physically with these eyes, but with that third eye, with that third ear, with that clairsentience, clairaudience, and clairvoyance. You begin to experience, I see the direction that it's coming from, and I see about how long it's going to take to arrive. If I set myself up, I can receive it. If I go after it, I will disturb it. And that doesn't mean that you don't strive. It means that you strive with an intuitive intelligence. And so you sit in your presence, you experience the trajectory of your preference, and then you don't live in that really disturbing, disruptive state of the difference. And remembering that the natural human state is enlightened. So just before we go into something very physical and practical, I want you to, you might take a screenshot of this. I want you to remember that we have intention on the left. This is as if we're looking at it from the backside. So intention is on the left, motivation is on your right leg, the purpose is in your pelvis, and then the gut brain is what is being activated so that you can begin to sense how your desires, how your motivations, how your intentions are traveling through time and space. So let's just sit for one moment here before we start a little bit of practice. And close your eyes for a moment. And take a deep breath. And hold that breath for just a few moments. Take the inhale through the nose. And now take the exhale through the lips. Take another breath through the nostrils. Experience it filling you up. And as you breathe in, push the belly out so that the diaphragm can drop down. And then exhale it through your lips. And inhale once again through the nostrils. Hold it. Experience its fullness. Push the belly out gently. And then release it through the nostrils. Through the lips. One last graphic to show you what is actually taking place. Every body part has chemistry. The legs have chemistry. The bones, like the bone of your pelvis, has chemistry. When we move it, when we tense it, that chemistry is microscopically secreted into the bloodstream. And the various parts of our body secrete different hormones, peptides, lipids, and proteins that are then analyzed in the blood as blood chemistry. I told you earlier, intention, motivation, and purpose. We have at the diaphragm, this is what gives us literally our inspiration. The diaphragm and deep breathing is inspiration. Two things in that word, inspire. Spire means spirit. In means to bring it in, to bring in spirit. The lungs are our believing. What you breathe in, you believe in. The heart has 3 levels. The bottom of the heart is what gives you that heart hope. The center of the heart is what gives you that heart will. Put their heart into it. They willed it. And the top of the heart is what the French word for heart is. The French word for heart is cœur. And so courage, age means time. Courage or courage means a time of the heart. So when you have hope, you will be willing to act. And when you act, in 3 dimensions, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's Newton's third law of motion. And when there's a reaction to your action, you have to have the courage to face that reaction and to navigate it rather than to be offended by it. And so this heart center is all about believing, hope, will, and courage, right? The gut center is all about creating the ideas and adding the emotional charge to those ideas. The diaphragm is all about the inspiration that takes those ideas that are all charged with emotion and translate them into your belief system, which Tony often talks about. Belief system, you remember he talks about the BS. Is your belief system BS or is it serving you? And then the heart. And then it comes into the throat, which is where the reticular formation is, which are your instinctual reactions. And one of the reasons we will be using our voice later in this master class is so that we can resonate and neutralize that reticular formation so that we're not following our genetic instincts, but we're following our cosmic intuition. And then it goes from there into the head brain to be analyzed. So this is why we want to start from the bottom and work upward. So make whatever notes that you need to make. Let me rearrange things here. And please come standing up. Now just stand with your body and just experience your legs, move back and forth, experience your arms, experience your pelvis. This is actually something that we should do on a daily basis. On a daily basis, and what we teach at Kundalini University throughout the 6 months of the program is how do we get our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and our spiritual bodies to all coordinate. That's what yoga means. Yoga means to unite them. So now bend your knees and just drop down into what is known in Qigong and Tai Chi, and in Kundalini Yoga it's known as horse stance because it looks like the back leg of a horse. The reason that we put the pressure on the thighs is because our thighs are producing, with every beat of the heart, 2 million red blood cells. And those red blood cells are red because they're filled with iron. And that iron, that ferrous oxide, that iron is recordable electromagnetically. It's like the old cassette tape. That was an electromagnetic recording. And so you are constantly recording on the red blood cells of your body as they form. You're constantly recording your intentions. Now take your arms, interlace your fingers, and place them in a sort of a circle above your head. And now begin very long, deep breathing while you're trying to, just with some force, not a tremendous force, you're pulling on your hands so that it creates an electromagnetic field around your head. Now long and deep breathing. Push the belly in as you exhale. Push it out as you inhale. We'll just do this for a minute and you'll feel the results. Last 15 seconds. Really push and pull the breath. And now inhale and tense the whole body. Push the belly outward. Tense the whole body. And release the breath and the body. And just come standing and just swing your arms. Shake your legs a little bit. Let the body become fluid. Yeah. And now just stand, turn your hands upward. Now feel how your full body is activated. Experience this sensation. The entire body is action-oriented at this moment. Now, doing this periodically is what keeps your body at ease rather than in dis-ease. Body at ease, emotions become balanced, thinking becomes clear, spirit becomes obvious. The enlightenment becomes obvious, as Gary was talking earlier, and as I've seen many of his posts in the WhatsApp groups. Now, take and put your right foot in the back and your left foot in front, so you're coming down with just pressure on one of the thighs. This is what's known as archer pose. And I want you to act as if you have a bow and arrow here. And look out over the extended arm and imagine that you're aiming at your dream, your plan, your goal. And just in this position again, inhaling through the nostrils, exhaling through the lips. Again, we'll do it for 1 minute on each side. And I want you to hold this bow as if it's a really strong bow, so your muscles are really tensing up. Inhaling through the nostrils, exhaling through the lips. Last few seconds. And inhale. Push the belly out. Tighten the body. Release it. Come standing, and again, let your arms swing, your legs swing, and just let the body, which is the foundation of our physical life, let the body just experience that fullness. And then just stand for a moment. Feel the full body. It's a little bit lopsided right now because we did a one side of a two-sided exercise. We'll formulate that balance in just a moment. Now come on to the other side. This time, right leg forward, left leg back. Come down onto that thighs so that you're really stimulating that bone marrow, which is where the blood production is. Come into that archer stance, and again, inhaling through the nostrils, exhaling through the lips. Remember, when you inhale, push the belly out, and when you exhale, draw the belly back in. Eyes are open, looking out over that extended arm. And now inhale. Tighten the entire body. And release it. And again, create some fluidity in the body. And then just come standing. Roll your shoulders a speck just to release any tension. And then just come standing for a moment. Now feel that balance in your system. Experience that balance. The foundation of life is physical. That's our experiential component. The physical creates the emotional. That's our feeling component. And when the physical and the feeling components are balanced, we achieve that mental clarity. When we achieve that mental clarity, we are able to be in spirit. We are able to have that enlightenment, that clarity, that awareness, that awakening, which is what our goal as living beings is. So the last exercise we want to do is just a spreading this electromagnetic charge. Just inhale, let the arms come out, lean back, exhale, and let the arms swing up and under. Inhale like this, exhale like this. Inhale. And let the body just open up when you inhale up and arch back. Let the body just open up. And relax it and come sitting back down. For just a moment, close your eyes. Be aware of your breathing. Be aware of your presence. One of the things in yoga that has been in meditation and in yoga that has been practiced for centuries is what is now known as tapping. And tapping is working on the parasympathetic nervous system, which has this major nerve that comes down called the vagus nerve. Vagus is a word that means vagabond, and vagabond is a word that means wandering, because the vagus nerve comes from the brain down to the pelvis as a wandering system that connects all of the glands and organs into a orchestra, and it allows it to all be coordinated. So when you turn on your parasympathetic and not react through the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight system, you're able to take a step back in each moment and do the right thing at the right time. And in order to turn that on, sometimes it's just deep breathing, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a combination of deep breathing and sound. And the sound that we're going to make is that sound of the breath, which is sa, nam, sa, nam, sa, nam. It is said that sa is the sound of an inhale, and nam is the sound of that satisfied exhale. And so just do it for yourself, just a moment here. Sa, nam, sa, nam. And we're going to be tapping. Inhale. Sa, nam. Sa, nam. And I'll do some music so that we can experience the melody of our life in addition to the breath of our life. And the music that I will do will be in a heart rhythm. So bring your hands into position. Inhale. Sa, nam. Inhale. You're tapping. Sa, nam. Sa, nam. Now make it a little more voice. Sa, nam. Sa, nam. Sa, nam. Sa, nam. Sa, nam. Deeply breathe. Sa, nam. Sa, nam. Sa, Deeply breathing. Put a little more force in your voice. Exactly who I am. Very simple. I am who I am. Exactly who I am. I am who I am, exactly who I am, self-assurance. I am who I am, exactly who I am. One more time. I am who I am, exactly who I am. Just let your heart rest. Experience the relaxation of your breath. Let your heart rest. What you're currently experiencing, to whatever degree you are, is that integrity, that integration of all of your component parts. That physiology, that emotional and mental body, along with that infusion of the spirit soul. And what our goal is to not become enlightened, but to recognize. Cognize is to know, is again, to recognize or recognize the enlightenment that we are. This masterclass is an introduction to what we do over a training that takes place over 6 months, 200 hours, in which I am live with you twice a week. We have 835 pages of manuals. We have hundreds upon hundreds of videos. And it's a self-study. It's a self-pacing. It's the ability to establish within yourself the kind of habits that will enable yourself to truly be yourself, your true self, your natural self. And so what I would like to do now is allow Gary to sort of orchestrate a question and answer, a conversation. Let's have a conversation about all of what we've talked about, and about anything that we bring up is fair game for what it is that we gathered together here today. So if you would be so kind, unmute everyone so that we can allow people to raise their hands. You can, if you're on camera, you can raise your hand physically, or there's that little Zoom hand that you can raise. And then Gary will coordinate so that we don't all talk at once. Yeah.
Thank you, Guru Singh. That was amazing. I'm still catching up. My mind is my functioning, my beta brainwave is trying to catch up. It's still at the alpha stage, which is beautiful. So yeah, before we go into question time, I just want to share with everyone. So Guru Singh, he's leading Kundalini University. Is a teaching not just to learn Kundalini yoga. It's basically self-mastery, awakening self-mastery beyond just solving problems or running business or with our logical mind. How do we align our gut, our heart, and our logical mind, and our spiritual side all in one as well? And as Guru Singh touched on, it's a 6 months program. There's over 200 hours of recording. There's a lot of live calls in this, within the Kundalini University. The call starts next month, and this is the pricing that you can see on the screen. And Guru Singh has recognized and as part of the Plat community, and offered like a significant discount, a 15% discount, if you want to take advantage of that over the next day or two, which will bring the price down to, when I go to the actual page and I punch on the right hand side, you can see have a coupon code. If you put in Tony 2024, you can see the price from 3,395 down to 2,885, so a significant discount. So yeah, if you feel called, it's an incredible program. I know that quite a few Plats have gone through this program, and they've had amazing experiences with it, and they love the teachings. In fact, a lot of the people that go through this course are not people looking to teach yoga. It's more for self-mastery. For the people that wants to go deeper and get certified to teach yoga, they can as well. And so yeah, now we want to open up to question times regarding anything that you've learned about the course, the program, anything, maybe something that's happened in your life. So feel free to raise your digital hand, and we'll get to you one by one. And Yeah, as always, the first one to raise their digital hand is always the most special.
There we go. We got it. Breaking the
Yeah.
ice, as they say.
Dr. Lucia, if I got your name correct.
Louisa, that's okay. Louisa.
Louisa. Hi.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for time giving us your time today and all this beautiful knowledge and high frequencies. And so I wanted to ask because I've been looking a lot into brain and heart coherence and meditating daily once or twice, really making that my lifestyle and really changing my values and to deeply go into that spiritual side and a path. I experienced beautiful healings on myself, so I am truly grateful for this session today. And I never thought really about coherence of guts as well. The way you explained in those three levels, like we all focus on heart and mind. Many plats are also into Dr. Joe Dispenza, so I know there's so much of that. And then, you are mentioning about gut as well. And when we really look at energy, everything starts from the bottom, from the root chakra, right? So, when the bottom is blocked, then nothing moves up. So I understand breathing, and definitely that's been always part of my life also because I'm a musician. So playing French horn, I'm blessed into using my body. It's a necessity, right, to play well, but also it ended up being a blessing when I went into the path of meditation and working with the breath. So I would love to hear a little bit more about, how to add that coherence of the guts as well with heart and with the brain, because I have this image of coherence of heart and mind, how it creates that bioenergetic field, and I feel it also when I meditate, and I feel tingles, and I feel like I'm not physical body anymore, which is just beautiful sensation as well. And now, guts, I'm always approaching it from the perspective of breath, but I'm wondering how much, what more I could do, because I know I'm struggling with my third center. Certain fears, which I discovered in last meditation, come from my parents and from, losses during the war. And, during meditation, I actually hear the word cancer, which is really cancer of the thoughts, which come from previous generations, So
Correct.
I would like to release that, and I work on it and I meditate, but it's there and it's so powerful.
That is, first of all, let me just congratulate you on playing the French horn.
Thank you.
The brass instrument that does a left-handed fingering,
Yes.
right? And that huge bellows is just, it's such a mellow. And by the way, as you're playing the French horn, it's right there at the gut center.
Yes. Yes.
And such a gorgeous instrument. Well, let me first of all address something that you brought up, and that is the genetic component, which is very much addressed in the gut center. It's got the lower three chakras, the lower triangle,
Yes.
which is that survival of the first chakra, the approval in the
Yes.
second chakra, and the digestion or the accumulation and assimilation of that which we are connecting to in the third center. Medical science has discovered that in the Human Genome Project, analyzing the DNA, that the life cycle of the DNA goes back 14 generations. In other words, we have the impression of 14 generations before our body, right? So this is
Yes.
not our cosmic self, this is our physical self. But life is a combination of our cosmic self, the soul spirit,
Yes.
with the physical self. So it's an experiential body, it's an experiential life. This physical body is made up of 14 generations. You have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and it doubles every generation. So it goes back doubling every generation, and if you add it up, it becomes 32,766 ancestors, right?
Yes.
2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128,
128,
256, and on and on and
156.
on. Now understand that 90% of our DNA is what is originally called junk DNA, but
Mm-hmm.
now what they understand, it's epigenetics. It's
Yes.
the emotional imprint that is carried from generation to generation. So what we have is we've got 32,766 ancestors, all influencing our physiology. Meditation and doing something physical, like Qigong, like Tai Chi, like Kundalini Yoga, in which you're combining movement, posture, and breath, is a way of not only clearing the genetics, but also focusing and aiming the genetics at the purpose, the intention, the motivation, and the purpose of your life. And
Mm-hmm.
so you take this full amalgamation of your physiology, you add it with the gut to the emotional charge. And that's why the coherence of the head brain and the heart brain is great. Now with deep breathing and with proper movement, you're also adding the gut brain into that trilogy. And
Mm-hmm.
now you have this connection and nourishment. You've got this giving and receiving. And you've got this analysis, which is important, but it's not dominant. It's not the most important. The most important is, as you've stated, the coherence between the three. There's a
Okay.
great book. It's called M-braining, which means multi-braining. M-braining. And that's, it goes through all of the medical science that is connecting with these multi-brains. I mean, they're actually neurology here and neurology here. And of course, the massive amount of neurology here. So when we begin to really connect and nourish and feel, and we really begin to get a sense of that effort to give, that's why giving is such a big part of Tony's life, and the complete relaxation to receive. And that's why I've known him for 31 years, and that means I knew him before Sage. But when Sage came into Tony's life, receiving became possible, because it was such an incredible relationship, that relate ship, right? It's always said that, are you in a relationship or a relation canoe? Can you stand up in that vessel, right? You can't stand up in a canoe. You have to play it safe. You have to be careful, right? But both Tony and Sage can fully stand up in their relationship. And that's why it is such a model of what it is to be that full gut, heart, and head, that full coherence and that full resonance. And so doing these kinds of practices, which are intellectual to feed here and experiential to feed here and here. So you have the blessing of all, the intellect, the accuracy, the giving and receiving, and the connecting and nourishment. And so I would strongly urge you, when you're playing that magnificent magical instrument, to really feel how the lungs are developing, the diaphragm is projecting, and the diaphragm is then moving the energy from all of this emotional charge in the gut in through the lungs, out through the notes that you're now playing through the head brain, right? You're playing the notes because you know the scales, you know all of the components. And so God bless you. You're a musician, and you can activate this all day long, every day.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
When you mentioned a war, what war are you talking? I mean, there's so many, but
So last meditation, uh, I did meditation on viewing past lives, kind of like past
I
regression,
get you.
life
Yes, of
regression.
course.
And I got very, very powerful message,
Got it.
about fear, which comes from my family who lived in Kiev. And, that time it was part of Poland. Then after the war, it became, at that time it was not part of Poland. After the war, they lost everything, because it was taken away from them. So, when you lose,
By Belarus
that,
and Ukraine.
yes, and Ukraine, Lvov, yes.
Yeah.
So they lost, like, oil fields and their homes, mansions, and
Mm,
there was so much fear coming from that time. And I never really
correct.
thought about it because, I knew those stories, right? I met my
Yeah.
grandmother. I could see her attitude, but I was too little to understand where it was coming from, that broken heart.
Hmm.
And I'm I
So
feel
what?
very abandoned.
Let me just interject. You can heal the family genetics.
Yes, yes, I'm learning.
That is the nature of the quantum field.
Mm-hmm. That's
That
beautiful.
non-local quantum field heals through the generations, not only the generations of the past, but the generations
Yes.
moving forward.
Yes. And like looking at my life and being so grateful for everything I have, and I achieved my dreams and my abundance I have in many areas of my life. The fear has no explanation in my life, but I'm understanding where it's coming, fear of loss of everything, loss of my money, loss of my, four businesses,
Gotcha. Yeah.
loss of my properties,
Perfect.
loss of my relationship. I'm like, where's
Perfect.
that from? And
Perfect.
so I'm
Yeah.
on that path now. Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, to all of us on this call, we all have that genetic emotional component. And when we open up the gut brain, we're able to clear and to organize and to balance all of those emotions, because every emotion, even fear, is an essential component. It's an essential part of the the collection.
Mhm.
Fear is like salt. If you use a little bit, it brings out the flavor of the moment. If you use too much, it makes the whole meal salty, right? Think of the deer, right? The deer, the animal, the deer. The deer uses fear in the in the right proportions. It knows when it hears a twig break at a distance, hears that twig break. It knows if it's a soft pad that's broken the twig, or a hard foot that's broken. If it's a hard foot, it's a grazing animal, nothing to fear. If it's broken by a soft pad, it's a predatory animal, and it
Mm.
knows that it needs to move, absolutely move downwind, so that the predatory animal cannot smell it. So these
Mhm.
are all the ways in which life coordinates itself. And
Yes,
so fear is important in trace amounts. It
yes.
allows us to navigate the circumstances that fill our moments.
Hmm.
In more than trace amounts, it means that it's unresolved fear, and that
Yep.
we can resolve through doing these, what I call biometric movements and acupostures. That's the yogic form. And then we
Yes.
do the breath work and the sound work. That's the meditative form.
I never actually thought about it this way because it puts a different meaning to the fear, that it's not always it's not always destroying you. And I own a martial arts business actually as well. I'm a martial artist to add to my music. And
Fantastic.
after Broadway shows, I mean, that little amount of fear, it creates actually more awareness in life. So I
That's
can
what it
stay
is.
safe on the streets of New York City
No,
where
that's
different things
exactly what
happen.
it that's exactly what fear is. Fear is
Yeah.
an awareness stimulant.
Hmm.
In too much, it's the deer in the headlights, right?
Yes.
It paralyzes you. Too much salt paralyzes the meal. A little bit of salt enhances the
Yes.
awareness of the flavors of the meal. And
Yes.
that's what fear is. That's what jealousy is. That's what rage is. That's what anger is. That's what all of the components are.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll let someone else ask a question, but thank you so much for your time and all
Thank you
the.
there. Mm.
Awesome. If anyone else got a question, then put up your digital hand. It could be a question, it could be sharing. Darcy, I will spotlight you.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I am well. How have you been?
I've been a journey. So I want to say thank you for this. And I had a question like regarding Kundalini University.
Right.
Is it the 13 moons, like what you teach on that kind of on steroids? Or
Yes.
is it a
Yes.
whole nother level of something that we don't experience in the kriyas and the meditations and the explanations that you do?
Well, I like that you said on steroids because,
The right word.
yeah, it's a perfect word. Yeah, it is what we do in 13 Moons. It's also a very coordinated course that takes 22 modules, right? 22 separate modules. We learn about mind and meditation. We learn about intuition. We learn about our physical origins. We learn about, as we were speaking to the previous person, how we work with the emotional body. We work how we work to clarify the mental body. We go through so many aspects. It's a deep dive to sort of resonate with your steroid metaphor. It's a deep dive, and it's very much for self-improvement. It's very much for that awakening. It's transformative. People testimonials are always talking about how I had no idea coming into this that it was going to affect me this deeply. And we really go at a pace that is comfortable. We take a very large group of several hundred and divide them into smaller groups. With each group has a group leader that has, a person that's worked with me for some over a decade, and like trainers in Tony's programs. And it's really a well orchestrated formula for going into this extensive study with a lot of assistance and a lot of compassion and a lot of ways in which we can enable you to become your best. Yeah.
Now, is there something, and I want to choose my words carefully, like I've had profound experiences doing the kriyas, especially I think the C kriya, and then I've also combined it with biofield tuning, and those people have been able to go back and identify like specific traumas in my life or ancestors. They've cleared it using sound, and my anxieties and fears that I've had most of my life have just started going away. But I've also experienced it's happened so rapidly, adjusting to getting back into society has been a little too fast. And I
understand.
It's been a lot.
Thank you for being courageous and sharing. I appreciate that deeply. What we do at Kundalini University is we take the time and we also take the personal care so that it's never too fast. It's always right on time. Because this is important. Resolution, resolving those traumas, even if they're not your traumas, they could be ancestral traumas, as the previous person was talking. This, to clear them and to move out into the world is a deep feeling of unfamiliarity, because all of a sudden you don't have that traumatic engine, which is very familiar. It's familiar to your DNA. And you don't have that traumatic engine running you. And so all of a sudden you feel unsafe, because of the unfamiliarity. And what we teach over that 6 to 7 month period is we teach how to work slowly and to build that step by step by step by step, so that the healing is you go up and you plateau and you get accustomed to it. Then you go up into the unfamiliar, then you plateau and become accustomed to it. And as you become accustomed to this, what happens is you build that sensation of safety. That is so vital. That is so vital.
And it's almost like when your subconscious, from my experience, it's like your subconscious is like, oh, you found a way to clear everything? So you'll clear it, and then more things pop up, it seems, at least when I'm ready.
No, it's true.
But it's coming more rapidly, and it's it's a lot to adjust, but I know it's all in perfect timing, but it's, yeah, the world's so different now, but it's the same.
So what we are able to do through the program is the way we've set it up is we're able to slow the rhythm down. And as we slow the rhythm down, we begin to gather not only our newness, but our tradition, right? So we have the familiar strength, the foundational strength of our tradition, which is sometimes ignored in the newness because the newness is the shiny object. But it causes us to wander out into an area in our psyche, in our emotions, in our being, that we suddenly go, oh my goodness, I don't recognize anything anymore, and we feel unsafe. And what we do is we very systematically walk through this so that we know. It's like the mythology of Hansel and Gretel, right? We lay the crumbs down so we know how to trace our steps. Because the one thing that we don't want is to have that sensation of awakening that suddenly we can't function. We want to be fully functioning in an awakened state, and to achieve that, we go through the weeks and the months of very clearly organizing it so that it doesn't shock us. Really good question and conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. And thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Darcy. Any other hands? Nikki said thank you. Sasha said thank you so much, Guru Singh and Gary. It's good night. So I think it's a wrap, Guru Singh.
Beautiful.
So yeah, if you want to just unmute yourself and say goodbye, farewell, Sat Nam.
Bless you all. I look forward to seeing you in the future, both at Life Mastery and at the Platinum functions, and also at Kundalini University. So love you all. Bless
Thank you so much.
each one of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.